You know, it doesn't really feel like it's been that long since we last were on the public test server testing out new stuff coming to Planetside 2, and well, here we are again today. Only this time, the vehicle side of the game is getting some more love in the form of new and upcoming Empire-specific main battle tank and lightning weapons. So, how are the weapons feeling on first impressions? Did a certain faction get the short end of the stick? Let's talk. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new vehicle weapons coming to Planetside 2 really soon. So, there's a lot for us to go over today. Not only are the MBTs getting some love here, but so are the lightning tanks. In fact, this is the first time the MBTs and lightnings have ever gotten new primary weapons, if I'm not mistaken. As an overview, we have the JGX12 and the JGX11 for the new conglomerate, the P4-120 Kingsnake and L-100 Kingsnake for the TR, the Perihelion VXC and the Perihelion L-VXC for the VS, and the Larion PPC and Larion LPPC for the NSO. Technically, there's 8 new weapons here, but the lightning versions of these weapons are just scaled down versions of the bigger boys that are on the MBTs. So just keep that in mind going forward here as well. It's also worth noting that these weapons are on the test server, and things are subject to change prior to them releasing to the live server. Also keep in mind that testing with these weapons has so far been incredibly rudimentary, only shooting at stationary target dummies that aren't firing back. Got it? Good. Let's get into these weapons. As per tradition with my videos here, and well, because I've mained these guys for years, we are starting off with the new conglomerate. The description for the JGX12 and the JGX11 outlines them as functioning similar to that of artillery, sporting better turret elevation, made for lobbing anti-armor explosives over a long distance. And look, to be honest, with the muzzle velocity and the ways in which the rounds travel, it's very reflective of that description. When you use the weapon in a more direct one-on-one combat environment, you can very much feel the sluggish nature of the rounds you are firing. The reload speed here is also reflective of that of an artillery design, and while it sports a longer reload than AP rounds, it sports a faster reload than HESH rounds accordingly, so it's sort of the middle ground between your other specialized, heavier hitting rounds out there. There is a reward for these pain points, however, that being one of the best single-shot anti-vehicle damage payloads in the game, bar none. This weapon can destroy an enemy tank, that being Mag Rider, Prowler, or Chimera, in 3 shots from front on. Combine that kind of payload with a halberd, and you have a recipe to turn any enemy armor column into a scrapyard. We also do need to touch on the splash damage here as well, because it's actually potent enough to deal some pretty significant damage to vehicles, even if you don't hit them directly head on. That might be where this quote-unquote artillery side of things come into play here, but I'm not sure yet. Now, for all of my infantry players in the audience here, don't be too concerned about the artillery remarks. It was something that concerned me quite a bit here as well, and I was really concerned that, well, this may just become another infantry farming weapon, but I'm pretty sure we won't see this become too big a farming tool against infantry, just due to how the overall design of it works. To me, this is very much clearly designed to be an armor killer over an infantry farming weapon. That said, though, I'm sure the more creative people out there will find a way to do it. Overall, these NC weapons are going to very much be weapons picked up by those who can really dial in on this weapon's muzzle velocity and who know how to pace their fights accordingly with the longer reload times. It's going to be a weapon that will let you score record kinds of damage on enemy targets, but by the same token, it's going to be a pretty easy weapon to get things hilariously wrong with. If you get the timing wrong here, you're going to get out DPS'd here pretty quickly. You can pretty much forget sniping aircraft with it as well, thanks to its low end muzzle velocity. But alright, as is normally the case in point here with these videos, let's just switch from raw damage per hit to absolute darker by moving to the TR side of things here with the P4-120 and L2-100 Kingsnakes. And look, I gotta be honest with my TR brethren right now, you guys might have gotten the best end of the deal here today. And hilariously enough, unironically, the TR weapon on the Prowler, when aligned up with the deploy and the barrage abilities, might actually be a better artillery platform by comparison to the NC weapon we just covered. The big boy Kingsnake fires a 4-round burst, which peppers an area with high-impact anti-vehicle shells. The Prowler is no stranger to having its effective DPS split up into 2 rounds, so in this instance, double the trouble. And if I may, what I find most funny about this is that we all saw the memes of the 4-barreled Prowler turrets all those years ago, and how we thought that that was just ridiculous. It's funny to me that this is actually now becoming a thing in the game, but memes aside, we have to talk about the burst damage of this weapon here. Here, when you combine the direct and indirect damage, I'm pretty sure we're rocking the biggest burst damage payload in the game against vehicles, once again, bar none. So on the NC side of things, you've got the biggest single shot damage payload out there, and then with the TR, you've got the biggest burst damage payload out there. And throw in the fact here as well that the Kingsnake on the Prowler also seems to have the same reload time as the traditional AP cannon out of the gate, and this thing is going to be a real friggin' menace. I have a sneaky suspicion that these reload stats might be bugged, but I'm just going off what's been put in front of us at the moment, and as we know, these statistics are very much subject to change. But seriously, vehicles right now fall by the wayside when they come up against the Kingsnake, and I feel like a crew of Prowlers all running this weapon in a coordinated manner are going to be terrifying to deal with. I feel like this weapon's going to give me nightmares in due time. And when you scale things down to the lightning as well, we have, the L2-100 Kingsnake. That may only sport a 2-round burst, but it still feels incredibly potent for the Lightning's smaller profile and more nimble frame. I can't really explain how well the L2-100 Kingsnake felt like it just meshed with the smaller, faster, more nimble profile of the Lightning that's more in tune with, say, hit and run and guerrilla style fighting. I seriously think that the L2 Kingsnake is going to be a top tier pick for Terran Republic Lightnings going forward. There is one downside to the Kingsnake weaponry here, and that is that you can just completely forget hitting infantry with these things. The spread of the rounds are accurate enough to hit vehicles at reasonable distances, sure, but the only consistent damage that you'll be dealing to infantry with these weapons is just emotional damage, because, well, they'll have a lot of rounds flying around them and they'll be terrified, but it's not going to actually hit them consistently. So yeah, you can sort of rule out infantry farming with the Kingsnakes altogether. And just to subvert some expectations here a little bit, we're going to move on to the NSO side of things. Yeah, I hear you, my friendly spandex lovers, I'm getting around to you all as well. But for the angry toasters in the game, you guys are getting the Larion PPC and LPPC accordingly, and we've got a pretty interesting design to talk about here. Basically, we've got a sniper, but for tanks. It's a railgun, and I know the NC that are out there are thinking, well, we've just been ripped off. Kinda, but allow me to go through this here. The Chimera variant of the weapon looks actually pretty potent on paper, sporting a 700 direct damage, which is actually pretty potent for a single shot tank weapon. But it's also worth noting the fact that this weapon has absolutely no indirect damage, so 700 damage on its own is not much to write about home here in the world of vehicles. But on the flip side to that, there's certainly a trade-off here, or multiple trade-offs I should say, that make the lack of damage just oh so worth it. For one, no bullet drop, which again is pretty good, makes it very, very accurate out to extreme distances and very easy to aim no less. But then you've also got what is I think the highest muzzle velocity in the standard vehicle world on the weapon as well, and a projectile that pierces through multiple armored targets. That's right folks, this here weapon will penetrate enemy armor and just keep on hitting targets until it either meets the dirt, a building, or the skybox. And that's a bit of a game changer here, and something that we've not seen before in the vehicle world with the exception of the Colossus tank. Firstly, and it goes without saying, that the high-end muzzle velocity and the zero drop makes this weapon an ESF player's worst nightmare. It slaps small aircraft out of the sky like a bug zapper, and even large aircraft are going to have a lot to worry about with this thing roaming around. But where this weapon is going to truly shine is in those big armor zerg situations, where you have a big ball of sunderers all huddling together. Obviously in the past, if you were running in a big old armor column, you could always use your allies as cover to get some cheeky repairs in. No more is that the case with this thing in action, and thanks to that alone, I feel like this is going to be a pretty top end pick for those crowd control situations in the vehicle world. If you have a big enemy armor column coming your way, just whip out a bunch of chimeras running these Larions and well, you're going to start hitting damage on not one, but potentially 2, maybe 3 vehicles all at once, and that is unparalleled when it comes to crowd control in the vehicle world. But I think this also makes for a great opportunity to quickly bring up the Chimera's new MBT ability that is coming in the update as well. At long last, the Chimera is finally getting a unique faction ability. And look, I just want to highlight this, it's been around a year since the vehicle came out originally, but hey, it's better late than never, am I right? This ability will grant the Chimera a personal shield for 2.5 seconds that can block up to 2000 damage, but it also grants the main payload of the Chimera a Havoc effect, which is going to disable repairs on enemy vehicles for a short time period after the round hits. I think we're really starting to see what the faction flair for the NS operatives is, but anyway, the point being here, with this Havoc payload on the Larion, if you time your shots right, you can effectively disable the repairing abilities for a significant amount of enemy armor at once for a solid amount of time, and that is going to really throw a spanner in the works for a lot of armor columns out there. Yes, the Larion certainly lacks in the 1v1 firepower department, and it means that you are going to be needing a lot of support if you choose to run this weapon. It's really not the kind of weapon you would pick if you're going to be sort of ambushing tanks into a 1v1 fight, because I feel even with the upper hand of an ambush on your side, you may very well come out on bottom here with this weapon. But regardless, I do feel like the weapon is going punch for punch against the TR options at the moment as far as who got the best deal out of these Empire-specific tank weapons right now, because they just win out in very different circumstances. Which does bring us finally to the Perihelion VXC and L-VXC respectively for the Vanu Sovereignty. And unfortunately, I feel like I have very much left the worst for last here. Sorry VS, but today is once again not your day in the world of Empire-specific gear. Here, the VS gain access to a Crescent Wave weapon that slices through infantry and deals moderate damage to vehicles. The main shtick here is that the weapon is also unaffected by gravity, effectively making this a sniper weapon as well. Which kind of means that yeah, the VS and NSO in this one are sort of competing for who got the best sniper weapon. And I just can't help but feel like the VS ain't got much going for them this time around. Sure, the lacking bullet drop is a nice feature to have, and it does make long-range fighting in tanks a little easier to work with, but man, I feel like the weapon just sacrifices so much in the damage department to make that happen. And while it does come with an okay reload speed that makes it, you know, able to lay out consistent, accurate fire over time, it lacks the muzzle velocity to support its ranged endeavors comparatively to the weapon that we just discussed on the NSO side of things. And sure, while this weapon does come with splash damage that allows it to one-shot enemy infantry targets, it just kind of feels like you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You know, very rarely in tanking am I worrying about, like, you know, lining up a bunch of infantry targets to take one shot and kill them all before I take that shot in the first place. It's just feels like a very strange niche to throw on a tank like this unless you're trying to, like, you know, kill the engineer that's repairing a tank and then hit the tank that's behind him. Overall, where I see this weapon best working is in sort of tandem with the Mag Rider's main shtick. That being a tank that can sort of start scaling hills and getting up into positions where it really shouldn't be at times, and just harassing vehicles from angles that once again you just don't expect. And as we said before, the reload speed here does mean that alongside the, you know, no bullet drop, you are able to get consistent fire downrange, and you're able to do it a little bit more accurately thanks to that lacking bullet drop. So I feel like this is a weapon that's really designed to sort of stick with the Mag Rider's strength of being like, you know, this tank that crabs up hills and does strange things up there, whatever Mag Riders do, I don't know. But anyway, the point being, it has some very strange characteristics going alongside it that make it a bit of a confused weapon offering in my opinion. I've got to say, I don't think I'll ever run the smaller version on the Lightning, ever. I just feel like it doesn't quite get anything done for the Vanu Sovereignty Lightning that the other more stock standard weapons can do in the first place. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that right there is a bit of a rundown, at least an early rundown, of the new Empire-specific weapons that are coming to main battle tanks and to Lightnings in Planetside 2 very, very soon. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to backhand the like button. It does go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you're new here, well, that subscribe button also works just as well, as it keeps you up to date with whenever we go live here on YouTube or release a brand new video. I'd love to also hear what your guys' thoughts are on these weapons in the comment section down below. Do you think that the power discrepancy is fair and balanced at this given point in time? Or do you think one faction just got the bee's knees where everyone got absolutely shafted? Let me know down below. And as always, I highly recommend checking out our social media links down below as well. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.